Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Um, I don't know if there's some questions here okay, most of the questions here are for Todd, so we'll get back to them later. But we can go ahead to our next presentation, Dr. Andrea Kraj, a presentation on powering smart cities in the circular economy. I'd like to hand over to you now, Doc.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just transferring to share my screen, and I am hoping that you will see this. I'm not sure if wonderful. Okay, so welcome. I'm so excited to speak with you today. My name is Dr. Andrea Kraj. I'm the CEO of Core Renewable Energy, and I'm very passionate about powering smart cities with renewable energy and everything that renewable energy can do for economic development. So this is really an exciting opportunity. So thank you for having me. I wanted to talk about the shifting energy paradigm that we are facing. We know energy is everywhere, and our relationship is starting to change with that. Pollution of our environment is no longer acceptable. Risking lives to have fuel transported to vulnerable communities is no longer acceptable. The ideas and concepts of monopolies and centralization of our energy they're becoming concepts of the past, and they still exist in many places, but they're not the key to unlocking our future energy potential. And I always like to quote Albert Einstein on this, because he said, we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. And I like to say we can't inhabit the cities of tomorrow by the ways of today. We really need to start thinking outside the box. We need to leapfrog, and we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable with this disruption of our industry. And the energy landscape is changing. Just this week, the International Energy Agency posted that solar PV is now the cheapest source of electricity in history. This is unprecedented. They didn't admit to this before. They actually have shown now that it is up to 50% cheaper than their estimates of just 2 years ago. And this is due to their reassessment of the cost of capital of wind and solar, which they now admit to being at 2.6% in Europe and the US, and far below what they had previously assumed at 7 to 8%. So this means that solar can now be produced at or below $20 a megawatt hour. And this is really a really phenomenal point in changing the price. So we are seeing a massive drop in the cost of renewable energy technology, particularly solar and wind, and it's resulting in this unprecedented adoption of renewables while we're seeing an ever increasing demand for energy. However, there's a frustration that exists in the mass consciousness due to the rising prices of energy, particularly electricity. And we are seeing the rise of the prosumer. A prosumer is a customer or a consumer who no longer only consumes power, but sells that power back to the grid, sometimes just in excess, other times as a pure business case. And this is due to progressive energy policies in that region that enable this to occur, and the rise of corporate PPAs, power purchase agreements. And we are encountering more frequent and devastating natural disasters, hurricanes, floods, fires. This is going to cause a demand to rebuild in these regions and to leapfrog that business as usual to solve the crisis with solutions that don't exist today. And the status quo is no longer acceptable. People demand this. Islands will lead the way by their very nature of being more susceptible to climate change with more dramatic responses. So I like to look to islands as well as low-lying sea level areas for what we will encounter and what we will need to change. So islands represent a microcosm of a greater reality. They represent what could happen wherever we may be in an islanded community, if we're in a remote or rural community, and even in our large cities when we have blackouts. So they're the first to experience the devastating and catastrophic effects of climate change. And they will be the first to transition to this new energy paradigm, as well as those low-lying sea areas. So this will be how we lead the way. And when we look at this, we see that energy security is the biggest threat that faces humanity. It will affect not only our livelihoods and the quality of life, but right down to the very basics of the water we need to survive, vital surgeries, and our hospitals, especially under COVID. and also the preservation of food and for sustenance and medicine, which is critical to have energy to supply this. I spent over a decade researching islands and remote communities and electrification around the world. And I worked in Denmark, Brazil, through Central America and the Caribbean, as well in different places in Asia, Australia. And I traveled around the world presenting my research, but also working and finding and seeing these things firsthand. So for me, it's very important because I see how it affects the livelihood of people, my friends, my community, my family around the world. And I'm sure you can feel the same way. I'm sure you know somebody who this affects personally. So this we are seeing because of high costs of electricity and these unreliable systems that threaten life and the quality of life. They leave populations vulnerable, lack of healthcare, education, safety, all these things are impacted. So when I discovered all of this, I began to think, how can we solve these issues? And it really came back to addressing energy sovereignty. And without the ability to produce our own energy, wherever we may be, we are going to encounter situations where we will be under control from foreign energy interests or jeopardize our ability to control our own livelihoods, and we won't be able to address energy crisis when natural disasters hit unless we have some sort of empowerment and control over our energy story. So energy sovereignty addresses the use of indigenous natural resources that are local to a population. When I discovered I was able to solve this problem, but not just with one resource, it made a big difference. And that's where I started to see how the different types of resources could come together to really complement each other, to sync up. And this is really, really vital. This is important, so we don't think of this in silos when we address energy issues, which are the backbone of our smart cities. We need to think of everything just like in the circular economy. How do all these different pieces fit together? And so I found that if we applied the right amount of combination of resources in the right locations with the right amount of storage is critical for the proper purpose, the right application, we can move any region to be more autonomous and have a more renewable energy supply. And this would inherently become more reliable due to the robust nature of having multiple resources of generation to supply the demand along with storage. So how does this fit into the circular economy? Renewable energy has a key role. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transformed. So energy is all around us. It has the potential to be turned into something else, wherever it is, whatever you look at. And that means wherever we look, there are opportunities. And we have to think with this mindset. As we've discussed already today, the cradle to grave design paradigm is just the take, make, waste, dump. It's not very good for the environment. It's not very efficient, and it's a huge amount of lost opportunity. So we are moving to this cradle to cradle cycle. And what this means is that we're looking at things more holistically. And this requires this holistic approach and integration at all levels to actually achieve its existence. There are 5 key criteria to this C2C, and that is that in the manufacturing process, starting there, to use as much renewable energy possible as that is possible, 100% if possible. And I do believe 100% is possible depending on how you design your system. Water stewardship is key, social responsibility is important, material reutilization, and also material health. So when we look across the spectrum from a linear to circular economy, as we've discussed, linear is pretty straightforward. We know what that looks like. We've all been exposed to it. Trying to get to the circular economy really shows that reinjection of recycling and waste back into some form of a feedstock, a raw material, into that whole production cycle again. In between, where we sort of are right now in a lot of places, is in this reuse sort of economy where from the production to use, we are recycling material, and we're still ending up with a chunk of non-recyclable waste. So this is what we want to address. How do we get that non-recyclable waste back into our economy? So I'm going to talk a little bit to that right away. Let's look at those applications in our circular economy perspective. And this graphic shows a great way of when you look at everything from sourcing through to manufacture, through to distribution and use and recovery. Along that process, we are all somehow involved. And if it's from the resource extraction or to the manufacture, these are all the way through, even transportation, they all require energy. So there's applications to implement renewable energy in this entire circular economy paradigm. And when we look to where we live and where we inhabit, we are living in cities. A lot of us are in high load concentration centered cities, mega cities as they are. Rural and remote communities can still be part of this, and I'm not excluding those by any means. But since I'm speaking about powering smart cities and where the impact can be very drastic and immediate, is when we look at these high load concentrations, there is a demand for high standards of quality of life. People don't want to not have a light when they flick their switch. They don't want blackouts. They want nice warm water. They want air conditioning in hot climates. So these cities have untapped potential for applying renewable energy to transfer them into greener, cleaner, sustainable cities. So we need to implement this circular economy mentality and apply the principles of circular economy design to cities in every step along the way in order to make sure we're actually implementing it. And this requires energy. So the solution to this is not so straightforward. The solutions are as unique as our fingerprints. And that's what I like to remind people, is that every situation, every city, every region, wherever we are in the world, will have a unique solution. And the reason is we are governed by the geography, the topography, the weather patterns, everything that impacts renewable resources will be different depending where we are. Some of us have winter, some of us have tropical weather all year round. It's very different, and we need to keep that in mind. So the resources available at your location and your space will dictate your solution. So we will also have different priorities of supply and demand. Some places will prioritize critical infrastructure of hospitals, water, sewage, treatment facilities, schools, and transportation. And there'll be a different priority sequence for all of our needs in those areas. And of course, there will be a different pricing structure, regulatory issues in all our regions. So when we start to look at the connectivity and how we move to a smart city, we are really facing what we hear now as the IoT, the Internet of Things. And this is composed of devices that really consume a lot of data, but are highly connected. So we have a high connectivity. There's a lot of automation, and there's a lot of design that happens in these products, such that these devices could now have this type of a life cycle extension where we didn't see this perhaps before, especially when we're moving them into a circular economy. So things are starting to switch as we're redefining what maintenance looks like. We're redefining end of use. We're redefining how we design and develop these products. So these elements in the IoT are actually intelligent assets, and they transform the way that we make and use our stuff. And when we put all these devices into our smart cities, they require energy. So I like to say energy is at the center of all of this. It's at the center of big data. It's at the center of the IoT technology, of connectivity. And when we start to insert these devices into our buildings now start to become smart buildings. So we see connectivity for buildings, and we can see how they perform different. We can have predictive maintenance on our buildings. We can have digital libraries and even predictive infrastructure when we move to bridges and roads, etc. So our buildings start to look different. And when we start to accumulate a bunch of buildings, what does it look like? We start to build cities. So looking across that landscape of what a city could look like, when in a smart city with intelligent assets, we have optimized city mobility using apps. We could have improved traffic flow, reducing congestion, integrated domestic energy supply, efficient use of disposal, efficient use of waste and disposal and reuse of it, but also then, of course, of all our buildings across that spectrum. So taking a look at this building, to you it might look like an ordinary building, just it has solar panels. But let's take a deeper dive into what this building could look like. This is a building that has a holistic integration of it, incorporating technology into it, creating like a smart building. And it could have things like very robotic or automated facade and vision windows. It could have perimeter displacement induction units, classrooms could have dashboards in them. The ceilings could have be a lot higher and be interactive. We have 90% daylit classrooms, low energy kitchen equipment. We could have greenhouses, vegetable gardens. We could use solar thermal for heating and solar PV, photovoltaic, for electricity and energy purposes, and a green roof. It could have a completely high performance envelope. There could be geothermal wells, and yet there could be wellness attributes to it as well, such as walking tracks and fitness facilities, so that we really have this holistic application to how we are building the buildings within our cities, and then what is actually powering them. And so when you put power on buildings, I also like to say they become our power assets. They're no longer just structures. And what we will see is this will transcend into smart manufacturing facilities as we build factories of the future that will ultimately build our homes and our cities at large. So we're starting to see how this is coming back into the circular economy. And what I really wanted to touch on is that we think about how we power stuff, but there's no system that is really 100% efficient. Yes, we could reach 100% renewable energy in places, but there's also going to be product that is going to be, made or distributed at the end. There's no system that's 100% efficient. So we have to deal with the waste. And that waste management could be costly and complex. It could take up valuable space. It could be large and centralized. These ways that we have dealt with waste before can be changed. There's technology now that enables us to take this waste and convert it to energy. And you can move from this costly and inefficient way to something that is a lot better, that we could actually use this waste and create a feedstock. So here's a nice diagram from a Canadian company that does this. They have a technology that they apply, and it's they take the waste and they put it through a pre-treatment and process chamber, and out comes actually things you can use. So they convert it into a syngas, a bio-oil, and steam. And when you have these products, you can do different things with them. You can make either clean power from the syngas, you could have advanced biofuels for transportation or repowering something else, or you could just have clean power from the steam. So there's ways we can fit this back into our circular economy. So when we start to look across that landscape of what does a smart city look like, of course we have the smart grid powering the city. We've got the Internet of Things with all their devices. We have smart transportation, e-mobility, the integration of transportation and charging centers for our green vehicles and our municipal transportation. We have city planning at the center of planning this all, and we're managing our food and waste with advanced connectivity. So the backbone of all of this is this technology, and I really want to get into the renewable energy spectrum now. We have energy that comes from all types of resources, and I'm just listing some here. Particularly, all energy comes from the sun. So you could have direct thermal and concentrated solar power from there. Then we have wind, created by the gusts and convection on our planet due to the sun rising and setting each day, due to our rotation. The physics of it all creates our wind of our planet. And this wind can be created into energy through electricity, either onshore or offshore. And the scale at which we're doing that, I like to say 5 kilowatts. You could go smaller than 5 kilowatt, obviously, but we are seeing wind turbines offshore at 12 megawatts, and that is incredible. Bioenergy care, I mentioned a little bit about that from our waste and how we transfer all of that. That's one form. You could start at a raw feedstock, but also you've got to remember there's always waste along the way that could be converted into that bioenergy. Water. We're not just thinking about large hydro systems anymore. In fact, they're not even that sustainable or green. Small hydro, wave energy, tidal energy, this is at the forefront of renewable energy and water. And of course, storage. I can't say anything about this more. It's so important. You can't go and do a renewable energy system with variable resources without being able to have something dispatchable, such as bioenergy. Water is dispatchable, but storage is also dispatchable. And we can have storage in more forms than just battery. We can have pumped hydro storage, compressed air energy storage, flywheels. And there's a whole spectrum of what storage applies for at what best time of day, from supercapacitors to flywheels that can give you power for days and weeks. So my company focuses on how we bring this into a circular economy, on how do we bring in distributed generation on site, and how do we tie everything together. However, when we look at this, when we build this system, when you combine 1, 2, 3 different types of generation with storage, we found that is actually more efficient than if you were to just do one-offs. And so I highly recommend when we think about our energy plan, we don't just look at one resource, we look at what other resources could be complementary, what other ways we could tap into perhaps existing grid capacity, if not being completely off grid, and what does that look like? Even if we island and have the capability to go on grid when we want to or need to, but be off grid as much as we like. That allows us to control our power, our price for our energy that we pay as well. And these actually resources are inherently complementary. So when the wind is blowing versus when the sun is shining versus when we can dispatch fuel by biomass processes, you can really flatten out the inconsistencies or the variability or the uncertainty of your power system, especially with storage being part of it. So the Core Smart Microgrid is a product that we have developed with my company, and we like to say it's a distributed intelligent generation. It enables this circular economy effect of our energy systems to come into play. And so I wanted to show you a little bit about that, what it looks like when you see our different resources coming together. So this baseline of red here is your demand, for example, a house load, and it is just a snapshot here of one day. And this snapshot is of our virtual power plant. So our Core Smart our Core Smart Microgrid shows you here what solar, wind, and battery storage plus an EV fuel, biofuel could look like in a system here where you have that aggregate in the green. We could see that we are producing a lot more than what our demand is at the midpoint of the day. And when we break that down into that Core Smart Microgrid and show you what that actually looks like throughout the day, we see that hump in yellow of our solar production. We see the blue variability of wind throughout the day. We have our green biofuel or EV, if you want to, it depends which way you plug in your vehicle, if you use biofuels or EV, could be supported in the morning, say in that first part of your day. And then we have the purple being what has been put into our battery, or in this case, a battery storage, and is being pulled out when you see the purple activated there. And of course, the red is our load. So we see this snapshot of one day, but when we look across weeks, we can see it as well. And so this is what our Core Virtual Power Plant provides. You can see peaks here of production. You can see here where we have storage, where we are pulling from our storage to support our loads, and at times when we need to support with, say, a diesel backup, if that's the case of a system that we designed that requires that. So now I'm going to play a little video for you. I hope this works. And this is showing how our Core Smart Microgrid virtual power plant functions. We can see where generation exceeds demand, and we can see at what points of the day we're charging the battery. We can also see when diesel comes in to support the demand. This happens to be a case that has a diesel system. We also have a hybridized storage where we have compressed energy storage in this design, and it shows at what time of day we can actually power that secondary storage and when we are pulling from that secondary storage. We can see this on a small spectrum or a whole year, years in advance, so that we can plan out our energy strategy, because that's when we really see the effects and the benefits of putting our energy storage and plan and generation all together in the circular mindset into play. And that's where we start to see these benefits. So here's a case study out of Brazil from one of our clients. And you can see here how we could reach 100% renewable energy today.
Andrea, you may have to round up quickly.
Okay, certainly.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to say here that with this, we can drastically reduce the cost of electricity in a system by implementing the right combination of renewable energy and storage. So a little bit about our product here is just that we say that the power is in the plan for that reason, using our Smart Microgrid virtual power plant. So again, this is just showing now that all these different resources can be put into place all throughout the circular economy. So we have potential futures. There are global smart cities are emerging around the world. 60% of the population is expected to live in smart cities, by 2050, with the technology spending reaching 80 billion by 2016. So I think I've gone over what a smart city is enough, and I've mentioned that the backbone of smart city is its energy infrastructure. And I just wanted to highlight what's happening in Africa in terms of smart cities and the potential that Africa has with the emergence of smart cities and the smart city zones as labeled here in this graphic. And Africa's envisioned to reach 2.4 billion population in the next decades. By 2030, it's expected that 6 of the world's 41 megacities will be African, being Cairo, Lagos, Kinshasa, Johannesburg, Luanda, and Dar es Salaam. So I'm gonna leave it there. I had some examples. I'll just go through them quickly here of different smart cities. They are around the world. I think the biggest thing that we have to remember is that we plan our energy strategy in advance. We need to have distributed generation and changes to conventional things such as our electricity grid and building codes that'll enable this, and the financial models. So there's opportunities all around us, and wherever you look, you can find a way to inject renewable energy into our grid and into our livelihoods to become more of a smart city. And I always like to remind everyone that the buildings that we live, work, and play in are our power assets. And if we can start thinking of them like this way, we can see that our home is no longer just our castle, but it is our own island. And those islands plug into each other and they are connected. And that's how we really build our smart cities. So shine bright because you're brilliant and the earth is hiring. Thank you for having me.
Obviously on opportunities in Africa based on experiences in Africa over the lifespan of these technologies, and where we see there being opportunities in the near term. So without saying much more, maybe I'll pass to you, Amos, to kick us off.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you, the organizers, for allowing me this opportunity to present on this webinar. So I'll just get straight to our presentation. So there's an emerging consensus that the current fossil-based economy, which is being measured by the gross domestic product, needs to be replaced by an economy that aims at sustainable well-being, which is centered around people and our natural environment. And the previous economy, which is linear, is so much addicted to growth at all costs, which ends up putting us at risk, not only to the life of our planet, but also to the world's economy. And I must say that climate crisis is real, and it is a class struggle. And if you look at the continent that is at risk and the one that is mostly affected is Africa. This is a result of the actions due to our industrialization, population growth, production and consumption. So we therefore need to address these past failures of our economy so that we can value nature, we can value our health, and our well-being depends on this. This means that current indicators such as the GDP, which focus on the monetary value, they need to be replaced by other indicators that mainly focus on health and our well-being, and as well as on nature. So we need to put forward a new economic model which requires transformative policies with purposeful innovation, as well as giving access to finance, as well as risk-taking capacity in terms of sustainable business models and markets. And I would like to say that the circular economy is a call for global, holistic, and transformative action to put the world on a sustainable path. I would like to give an overview of African energy needs. And the African population, 60% of Africa's population is rural, and most of these rural households face the energy poverty, the energy crisis there. This is as a result of difficulties in terms of access to the due to infrastructural challenges which affect delivery, for example, grid connectivity, etc. And on the other hand, the 80% of the urban areas in Africa is electrified, but however, the challenges in terms of the delivery, in terms of access, and therefore many urban areas in Africa face the challenge of load shedding, etc. So we therefore need alternative low carbon sources of energy, such as biogas. And biogas technology holds an excellent potential for Africa's economy, especially for its bio-resource economy, when considering that 50% of the Africa's labor force is in the agricultural sector. So the importance of the biogas sector becomes much more apparent. In order to achieve a bioeconomy as Africa, we need some circular economy enablers, such as the political will, and it is my thinking that we need to push forward the idea of having an African Union policy based on the opinions and research coming from all the different African countries, so that we can come up with a bioeconomy policy. The EU has taken lead in having the Green Deal and also the circular economy policy, but we will find this kind of message lacking in Africa, although we argue that Africa has always practiced circular economy, but this needs to be put on paper, documented, so that all these different countries can commit to these policy needs. I'll give Jonathan the opportunity to speak further in terms of the existing biogas projects that are already in Africa. Jonathan, you can take over.
Thank you. Thank you. So one of the questions, and Amos and I are involved in some different research projects, but one of the questions we were pondering is, why is there such an expansive growth of biogas in Europe, in North America, in certain other countries, including developing world countries, but why do we not see that in Africa? And given, obviously, as Amos says, the ready availability of biomass materials to support biogas. And so we kind of walked it back to say, well, what's been happening and what's out there? And what we saw was a spurt of growth in very small scale projects in East Africa, in West Africa, driven by NGOs, and funded in part or in whole on the opportunities that were created through the Clean Development Mechanism of the UNFCCC. So in other words, a carbon emission project, one that has a great deal of value, and it certainly proves out the value of biogas. But these projects tend to be at a micro scale. These projects often are at a household level or a small community level. They're often based in rural areas, and of course that's a critical part of addressing climate change and addressing alternate use of resources. But they tend to have a very good impact, but on a very small scale, and therefore don't have all of the attributes necessary as part of this energy transition. So we started asking ourselves, well, why are there not large-scale biogas facilities, and what would it take? And of course, the challenges include the ability to deliver the energy. And this is a challenge on the renewable side, and we've seen this over and over again. So if you imagine the projects have all of the proper attributes, but they can't deliver the energy in a way that otherwise will make these projects profitable, at least at the commencement stage, at the stage where someone has to commit the kind of capital necessary to fund these projects. So when we looked at biogas, we asked ourselves, why is this different? Is there something different here? Are there opportunities that might be different, at least in the short term, than some of the other kinds of renewables, which you would think would be very much prevalent across Africa, but for the reasons we've just described, they are not. And one of the places we thought there may be an opportunity is around renewable fuels. So we have seen countries that struggle with the same delivery questions, but have the same kind of biomass resources that many countries in Africa have. And many of those other countries have the same kinds of absence of petrochemical resources. So in other words, they pay a premium currently for petrochemicals. Those petrochemicals include obviously transportation fuels. They include sources of electrical energy, and obviously other applications. So we looked at that and said, well, here is a place where African communities, which otherwise are potentially struggling with dealing with these kinds of costs, often importing 100% of those resources. Here's a place where there's maybe an opportunity for something of a switch, and something of a move to a renewable fuel, a biofuel, a biomethane, that can be produced through some of the technologies that I think Andrea was highlighting earlier, including anaerobic digestion, landfill gas, right? And through these kinds of facilities, we may be able to see projects generating a renewable fuel that can be delivered in the same way that current petrochemical fuels are delivered. In other words, a fuel delivery that doesn't require the same kind of infrastructure, the same kind of pipelines and other kinds of facilities that we see in Europe and in North America that facilitate the growth of biofuels. So if it is done as a renewable fuel and can be delivered to essentially distribution centers, depots, and ultimately down to the sort of level of a delivery to vehicles, whether it's at the bus, truck, or even the individual passenger vehicle, if it can be delivered at that level, then suddenly it becomes quite interesting, because those vehicles can be built to use biofuels, they can be modified to use biofuels, and the savings in the cost of using biofuels is substantial, as well as obviously there's a great number of other benefits, including the ability to decouple from crude oil prices, right? The ability obviously to have energy independence, and I think Amos was talking about that earlier around the need for solutions within Africa for Africa. So we see value in that, and when we look elsewhere in the world, we see that maybe this isn't the kind of project that is a good idea but dies on the balance sheet because there's no drivers. And so what we actually think is there may be an ability to have the private sector, both at the generation stage and the delivery stage, with, at first instance, potentially a secondary source, maybe a governmental source, maybe an international body, underwriting those projects. In other words, if you build a biogas facility for the purposes of distributing under this program, and a third party guarantees that for 20 years that biogas will be purchased at a price that otherwise makes that capitalization make sense, then maybe this can work. And it can work in different countries, in different kinds of circumstances, with different kinds of feedstock. And so we think that may be a near term or immediate win opportunity within Africa, obviously not in every country, but certainly across various regions within Africa, to convert what otherwise is a resource that isn't being fully deployed currently, and obviously the opportunity is to displace petroleum and other kinds of fossil fuel resources, which obviously have other kinds of challenges. So we think that's an interesting model, and we're working on that, and we're happy to talk to anyone who may have some ideas around this. We look, for example, at India, a country that is in growth mode around compressed natural gas, biogas, and that program has worked very well. And I think you will find a lot of interesting comparisons and useful comparisons in terms of what they've done and what can be done in certain countries within Africa who have the same challenges, who need to make the most of those resources, and who otherwise want, as part of the Agenda 2063, the African Union Agenda 2063, and the Durban Declaration, want to have an independent and secure source of energy within Africa for Africa, so that there isn't the same kind of turbulence and fluctuation that we've seen occurring both in the price of petroleum, as well as obviously in terms of things like the non-African carbon markets, which ultimately have left some resources potentially stranded. So that's our thinking, and that's kind of our short-term mission, is to look at this, to look at identifying countries where this opportunity may be most ripe, and to see whether or not this can be done, perhaps at a pilot scale first, but certainly we think with an underwriter, the private sector may well be sufficiently interested. The technology is already there. The biomass is already there. The delivery system is already proven. And so we think this can be done in a way that makes sense. And we're very much interested in talking to anyone who has thoughts or ideas about how they might participate and further this. So Amos, maybe I should pass it back to you. I've probably spoken too much.
Well, I think you have said a lot regarding biogas, regarding biogas opportunities in Africa. And by the way, me and Jonathan, we are researching on a biogas project in Canada as well. Recently, we were in Canada. So I began to ask all these questions that, we have different scales of development, and maybe we might need to also have solutions for Africa within an African context, because we have all these different technological developmental scales. So this is a project that we are working on, as well as other projects in Africa. So for those that are interested to get in touch with us, you may just send us a message, or as part of the discussion, we may get in touch. Yeah, that's all.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We've had an interesting day, and now we have a final presentation from one of our partners, the Catalonia Trade and Investment Agency here in Accra, and also we have Maite Adivo from Barcelona connecting directly. So we would like to hear from you.
Thanks for having Catalonia Trade and Investment here. And it's a pleasure and an honor to share with you how is circular economy developing in Catalonia. I would like to share my screen. I hope you see it. And okay, perfect. I would like to start sharing. I have a problem with now already. Okay, I would like to start to sharing our approach to circular economy and the context where we are applying circular economy. We see circular economy, as has been mentioned during all day, as an opportunity for a reset of the system, for a an opportunity for a new model of production and consumption, but it's also for us an opportunity for innovation. We see, this is the simplest definition that I found about circular economy, is what you're seeing on the screen. Waste is a failure of the imagination. And as I mentioned, an opportunity for innovation. But when we look into the proper definition of a circular economy, we see their principles also as a key innovation and research challenges. And the new ideas, new business model and opportunities are becoming exponential when we join the circular economy principles with the technology revolution in which we are now involved. Not only regarding the digital ones, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, but also recent developments in biotech and materials engineering. And they are a key lever for circular economy opportunities and for business solution development. And in this sense, we also look we see circular economy proposition as the disruptive innovation we need for a regenerative future, creating new markets and also new technology solutions. In fact, for us, circular economy is innovation. Is innovation with a fantastic purpose, adding regeneration, resilience, rebalance natural ecosystems, and having positive impact. But it could also be this innovation exponential, disruptive, and digital. And if circular economy is innovation, is also mean competitiveness. And Catalonia shares with the strategic supply reasons with Europe for applying circular economy, meaning risk supply mitigation, gains of resilience, and also decoupling economic development from the consumption of finite resource, but also bring other benefits like from the economic perspective, new business activity, new jobs. And at the business and the company business level, circular economy means the opportunity to increase resource efficiency, new value relationship with customers and suppliers locally and internationally, opportunity to increase customer loyalty, increasing brand value, differentiation, access to new markets and segments. These strategic economic and competitive benefits of circular economy have contributed, especially over the last 5 years, to an increasing role in European public policies. In two ways, in new regulation, taxation, but also in funding policies, in funding the business and also in funding investment in research and development and in and for example, there's almost 2 billion of euros have been this year announcement of the commitment of the European that circular economy and sustainability is a recovery pathway to overcome COVID crisis. The European Green Deal reinforced the European Circular Economy Action Plan already adopted, and also the industry strategy that pointed out two transitions, digital and circular, were needed for a competitive Europe. The government commitment in Catalonia, well, here you have the different funding policies and that are also bringing new international opportunities to collaborate. The government commitment in Catalonia with climate energy and circular economy is also renewed this year. Although, like all governments, have to put in place shock measures and policies to overcome the serious crisis that is coming. But commitment to environment is not new. For us, Catalan government decided to boost policies around green and circular economy since 1985. We're the first in Spain in transposition of the Water Framework Directive. But also, we have been pioneers in eco-design policies in protection of noise and light pollution legislation in cities, and also in all issues concerning waste management. In 1993, the first waste law was approved by Catalan Parliament, much before the European directive or in Spanish legislation. And recently, in the past 5 years, program for prevention and management of waste in Catalonia includes a circular economy focus, and waste is defined and claimed as a resource. The National Energy Transition Agreement is pushing towards a new energy model based on renewable energy, with the ambitious aim of 100 renewables by 2050. First climate law in Spain was approved last year, 2 years ago, in with the aim to have carbon neutral economy in 2050, and new taxation for high pollutant vehicles and industrial activities deployed. And the National Agreement for Industry, where circular economy is one of the 6 axes of action, was signed in 2017 and involved university research centers, business association, and trade unions, and several departments of the government of Catalonia. So in 2020, the government reinforced its commitment to green recovery. We maintain the support business innovation programs that we launched 3 years ago, involving around 100 collaborative projects per year. And also the Catalan Waste Agency supports circular economy implementation, and they also renew their commitment with approximately 150 other projects per year. A new law on waste is in preparation to adopt and adopt the European Circular Economy Action Plan targets, and it is planned to increase taxes on landfill, among other measures. So we are working now in a new circular roadmap for Catalonia that will be presented at the end of the year. And Acció, the Catalonia Trade and Investment Government Agency, is boosting business competitiveness through innovation and internationalizations. And since 2015, we have included circular economy and sustainability as a key priority, with a transversal program with the specific tools and services and business grants. And we see our circular economy vision, we see circular economy as the new production model for the 4th industrial revolution. And we are acting in these 6 areas to support business and innovation and circular economy opportunities. We are working on building capacity with training and workshops. We are looking for new business opportunity locally and internationally. We are facilitating connections, trying to closing loops, facilitating partner research and B2B matchmaking. We facilitate technology access for circular economy projects through the network of technology centers in Catalonia. We provide research and innovation investment through grants for business, and we provide access to finance and scale through internationalization of the activities that are working on circular economy. Here we find more specific information, but just to point that regarding impact, public investment to support circular economy projects in Catalonia is around 5 million euros per year. And we mobilize from 10 to 15 millions of total investment. Half of these funds are focused on research and innovation projects. And we have between 200 and 300 companies involved per year. We participate as a government of Catalonia in different international collaborative innovation initiatives in different sectors, in plastics and also in textiles and food, that are transforming global change. I would like to share regarding from the private sector point of view, first some figures to understand the context of where circular economy is applied. Catalonia has 7.5 million of inhabitants and a GDP around 200 billions of euros. And what is important regarding flows of materials and waste is that Catalonia has a very diversified economy, and the industrial activity represents nearly the 25% of the Catalan GDP. And food, drinks, chemicals, automotive, motor, energy, life science and pharma, and also information and technology and digital transformation are the main industrial sectors. But each of them accounts only 10% of the industrial GDP. And for example, water, paper, plastics, textiles are at 5%. Together with industry, tourism is also an important activity, and tourism accounts around the 12% of the Catalan GDP. But we have seen growing circular economy strategy in all these sectors. But in food, chemicals, materials, mobility, water, and energy at a higher speed. In fact, 5 years ago, we had a sectoral assessment for circular economy potential, that which you could see on the screen, and also these sectors were highlighted. Regarding research and innovation, we had the ingredients to be able to implement and concrete new solutions for the transition for circular economy. We have a strong ecosystem for research and development. Catalonia represents half of the private research and innovation investment in Spain, and also Catalonia leads the concentration of innovative companies in Spain, as well as volume exports. We have more than 1,300 startups that are located in Catalonia, and Barcelona ranks the third city in attractiveness for founders and lies fifth for the European startups hubs, behind cities like London, Berlin, Paris, or Amsterdam. We have clearly seen an increasing number of technological center and research groups involved in projects with companies in different sectors, in all leading economic sectors in terms of GDP contribution in Catalonia. And we have around 2,000 companies out of the 10,000 that regularly invest in research and innovation, demanding new circular economy innovative solutions. But also we have 400 companies that are offering circular economy solutions with an aggregate turnover of 1,000 million euros, and then they employ 7,000 workers. And this volume of turnover represents the 5% of the Catalan GDP. And these companies, these solutions include solutions for waste management, for material or energy valorization, for water treatment services, for product reuse, for renewable energies, also engineering and consultancy firms. Waste and materials are the main subsegment with circular economy offer, but we have a very high technological offer for water and renewable energy. 52% of these companies are exporters, so they have international activity, and 12% they have a subsidiary abroad. To these 400 companies offering solutions, we have so many other key economic players that are now already offering services in circular economy, from universities with new training and educational programs, business associations, cities, sectoral initiatives in different sectors, and that are also creating business support activity around circular economy, and also a growing number of technological and research groups dedicated to circular economy. And also new business activity is growing. In the past 5 years, we doubled the number of startups that are offering circular economy solutions. So all indicators in terms of number of projects, companies, amounts invested, points that we are moving forward. We are about to publish 100 selected circular economy projects and solutions that will be presented the 19th of November this year. And you will have also the opportunity to visit them in person next year, hopefully. Also in November, the 2021st, in the Circular Economy Hotspot Catalonia. That will be an international opportunity to know more about circular economy in Catalonia, and where you could see a variety of sectors and technology solutions. I would like to spoil some of the examples that you could see on this catalog of 100 of the selected project, but also on the circular economy hotspot. And these examples also suggest that circular economy innovation opportunities with higher market value are cross-sectoral and also are have more value when there is intersection of different technologies. And as you can see, we have examples of solutions in the food sector, from almond skin to for an application for a health solution. In this case, the cholesterol reduction, but there are many other. And we have other solutions regarding organic waste transformation into bioplastic, but using bacteria. Another example goes to improve and upgrade properties for bioplastic and their application for materials and in Industry 4.0. We have other examples regarding smart packaging to ensure quality and cut down food waste. For example, this is an example of a startup that has an intelligent label for food packaging that change their color depending on parameters inside of food packaging. We have another example that is interesting, that is eco-friendly batteries for single-use application in health sector, for example, that are batteries made of paper, carbon, and a small quantity of non-toxic metals. And also you have examples of the conversion of organic waste biomass into synthetic fuels and green hydrogen. Other examples goes to the health sector with surgical cloth reuse, or applying robotics for shorter plastic packaging, and also applying IoT and filling cell level sensors, or also tracking vehicles and containers for schemes pay as you through. We have also another startup that is working on microbial fuel cells as an alternative energy source. For example, that is an interesting application for sensors in built environment and also in agriculture. And we have innovation in construction market with new materials made from waste from paper mills, and also some solutions regarding soils and aquifer remediation and other solutions for water. There are many other examples about different kinds of solutions in different sectors. We invite you to know more next year in person in the Circular Economy Hotspot Catalonia in Barcelona, that we showcase private also and public initiatives and partnerships that are transforming Catalonia into a more circular economy. It will be a meeting point for leading companies, public sector delegates, research and innovation stakeholders from 25 countries. We expect 500 participants. We combine world-class letters with on-site guided tours of innovative circular solutions from different sectors, going from agri-food, textile, mobility, water, chemical, fashion, packaging, building, and also public initiatives. You could have updated information at the website at the chotspot.cat, and you could join also this November for the online session, the 19th of November, and also next year on site in Barcelona. And join us and help us to build a better future, because we still have much to do. We need to increase innovation demand, we need to build new technology, and we need to set up new collaboration with our regions, cities, and countries for research and development, and for applying new circular business solutions. And in this sense, to conclude, I would like to share with you, we'd like to highlight 3 opportunities for collaboration. If you look for a technological partner, we have B2B matchmaking services, and also we could help. We have a search service to help you to find suppliers or technological partner. If you want to join the strengths to participate in international innovation and technological cooperation projects with Catalan partners in European projects, so we are here to help you. And we also offer a fellowship program, Tecno Spring Plus, that funds international research programs and salary for Ghanaian researchers candidates with Catalan that could work with Catalan companies or technological research centers. Thanks. I left, you have my contact data here, and also the contact data of our trade and investment office in Ghana, and thanks a lot for having us here.
Thank you very much. That's about our final presentation for the day. Robert, hello.
Hello.
Yes, Robert, would you like to say 5 minutes to round up, present again, present some concepts from your company?
So we do a lot of acquisition and a lot of re-engineering of inventions from around the world. So if you look at our 3 company websites, you're going to see a lot of innovative things that were developed by a lot of people, and then we acquired them and re-engineered them to make sure that they're simple, low cost, and robust. All water, wastewater, stormwater, ballast water treatment systems. So it's all in the water and wastewater field. That's our business model. Frankly, I don't know that many of you know this, but we have a lot of people in our companies that have many years of experience. For instance, I started in 1974. We also have an engineer on our marine group that's 85 years old and got the first marine sanitation device certified in 1969. So we have a lot of talent on staff, including a PhD that specializes in water, another one in wastewater, and another one in marine biology. And we have people here that are dual citizens from many parts of the world: Egypt, Libya, China, several from Iran, and places like that. So we're multicultural. I just happen to be the president and one of the ones that travels the most internationally. And it was 2 summers ago that I was in Barcelona with my family using those edible straws and reminiscing about how good they were after I had a sangria after sightseeing. So a lot of the things that have been presented to me are pretty familiar. So I want to thank everybody for the opportunity. If anyone wants the presentation, just email us.
Robert, I wanted to say that while you're talking, you can show us your company website, and you can share with us your page. Maybe some key parts of your presentation, because I'm sure most of the people in this session missed or did not were not in the audience when you did your first presentation. You have a few minutes and you can do that.
Okay,
so
Jennifer's
you can go
going to
ahead.
try to pull something.
Yes.
I'll pull up her website. So we have a really comprehensive website that we're going to pull up and show you the landing page and just point out to some things there that would be helpful. But we have a lot of YouTube videos, including the closed loop system from Miami University that I spoke about earlier. We have the short stories that are designed for the novice or the person that is not used to the details of water and wastewater treatment. So right there, see where it says read more about our SOS Save Our Septic. So there's Robust, Aerobe, and Eco. They're made from biomicrobics parts. Robust and Aerobe are environmental engineers. They're non-denominational. They're co-workers. They could be any ethnicity you want them to be. Eco is their little doggy. It's a Shih Tzu. and he goes, sniffs out chlorine leaks, water leaks, and things. But all these indexed short stories are about a different problem, easy to read, and they help people figure out why they may or may not want to do a certain type of treatment to solve their own problems. So I would encourage people to go to this part. You can see all three of the companies. They're all interacted together. And again, we have 80,000 systems in over 80 countries. And we are certified to the European norms, as well as the Russian standards, SASO for Saudi Arabia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, and I can go on and on. But we have a lot of things like that, and we'd be open to any questions anyone has. But I would say that the lion's share of our business to date has been wastewater treatment, land and sea, but now we've entered into ballast water treatment up against some of the largest corporations in the world, like Suez, Veolia, Alfa Laval, and we also compete against them on land-based systems, mostly in the Middle East and Africa. So I would encourage people to look at these, and then if they have questions about a particular application, we'll go back to them with a solution and a price. And almost everything you're going to be seeing on this website is in stock, ready to ship. We just did our own virtual trade show here in the United States last week. That was our booth. And it's not far off from what our stand used to look like, but we changed it when we had a physical show last year. It was more square and rectangle with all four sides. We are charter members, or we're charter members in a lot of the organizations that we have a membership of, including the Ballast Equipment Manufacturers Association, the National On-Site Reclamation Association here in the United States, and we're a long-standing member of the Water Environment Federation. We're the largest international exhibitor for the Water Environment Federation. We have 2 export awards from the US government and another from the state of Kansas, and many other technology awards. And the latest one we're about to receive is from Frost & Sullivan. And Jennifer, go ahead and say what that one was.
We're named the 2020 Global Wastewater Decentralized Treatment Company of the Year. So we're going to have a press release announcing that award when we have that. We do have special permission to pre-announce it, but that they'll have the virtual gala more toward the end of the year, and we'll have more information.
So, yeah, we're very active in the industry all around the world, and that's by design. We've worked with a lot of universities by donating systems, letting them write their own reports about our products and so forth and so on. So Biomicrobics is in our 24th year. And those are our family of companies there, the 3 logos: Septitech, Biomicrobics, and Syncofast.
Thank you.
If you do social media, we do have a fair amount of activity of extra content that we post on social media. We've got 19.6 thousand Twitter followers, and we have Instagram, YouTube. We've got over 70 videos on our YouTube channel, so be sure to check us out there as well.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So we are now in the zone of questions and answers. If you have any questions for the panelists, please feel free to ask. There was a question which I think was directed to Catherine. Catherine, are you still with us? I think we lost Catherine. I think she's not with us anymore. But there was a question that was directed to her, so I don't think. But are there any questions that the audience would like to put to the panelists? I saw that some of the questions came already in the Q&A, and they were already answered by text. So maybe we don't have any more questions. There's going to be the final part of the program for today, a B2B breakout room. Yeah, we pushed it back a little bit, but I don't know from my team. Esther, can we bring it forward? We pushed it back to create, yeah. When is a B2B deal room starting?
We wanted it to start at 4:45, and we are trying to push it back if it's possible.
All right, try to do that and share the link. Otherwise, we'll end the session. So thank you very much to everyone who's contributed to such an eventful day. We started at 10 a.m. and it's almost half after 4, so 30 minutes, and then it's 5. So we've been at it for close to 7 hours or for 6.5 hours. It's been a long day. We had one B2B room already. I'd like to thank all our partners for supporting us to have a successful event. My appreciation goes very much to the Ecomondo Conference and Exhibition on the Circular Economy, organized by one of our partners, the Italian Exhibition Group, for their support and cooperation. To a large extent, the idea to hold this event emanated from our partnership with them, and also to the 12 other World Trade Centers around the world that cooperated with us. My gratitude also goes to the Catalonia Trade and Investment Agency and the Ghana Israel Business Chamber, all partners who worked with us, and to Biomicrobics, who also supported us immensely. We will put the presentations up on our website, and also the video we'll share with all the speakers and the audience directly, and also via our YouTube channel. If you haven't shared your presentation with us yet, kindly do so that we'll be able to share within our network after the event. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a pleasant rest of the day. If you are booked for the B2B room, then I'll see you again. I see that some questions are coming in now. I'd like to know how we in Mozambique can develop the circular economy, as there's nothing done with regards to this matter. There's an African Circular Economy Network, and they have representatives, I think, in almost all the countries in Africa. Jonathan and Amos, you are representatives, and I don't know if Bezawit is still with us. Bezawit is the leader of the Ethiopian chapter, and I think Jonathan and Amos are connected with the Ugandan chapter of the Africa Circular Economy Network.
Zimbabwean chapter.
Do you have any thoughts on whether you have a chapter in Mozambique, or you could set it up? There's a question with regards to that.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm not quite sure if we have a chapter in Mozambique, but he can get in touch with me via the email or through my profile. We can discuss further.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will share your email with the person who asked that question.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
I think that's right, Amos. It's consistent with the mandate to have representatives in every country. So if it hasn't happened already, it certainly should.
Is there a place to access data on the circular economy in Africa? I think this is also a question for Amos and Jonathan.
Yes, for now, we are currently collecting data from different case studies in different countries. So there is currently some work that's going on within ASEAN. We are collecting data from different case studies. For now, the hope is that when we have collected so much data, we can then use it in terms of informing policy and the direction of a circular economy in Africa. So it's ongoing work.
Yeah, and there's also something called the African Circular Economy Alliance, which is a group of countries, and they're focused on through country-specific working groups focusing on implementing a circular economy. So that's also a resource that's worth reaching out to.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. So thank you, everybody, and I'll see you in the B2B room.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Cheers.
Thank you.